So this morning we are going to talk about energy conservation. Specifically residential rebates offered through Xcel Energy. And to help us understand all of the options that are available to us, we are joined this morning by Ann Kirkpatrick. She is with Xcel Energy. Ann joined Xcel Energy in 2008 as a trade relations manager. She is responsible for engaging and training residential contractors in Xcel Energy's territory here in Colorado. Ann has been the program manager of several Xcel rebate programs, including air conditioning, heating, evaporative cooling, as well as insulation and air sealing. Additionally, Ann has lived in several Colorado single-family and multifamily communities with an HOA, so it's always nice to have a presenter with us who has some firsthand experience in living in an HOA, and we're very excited to have her today. There are 5 handouts attached to this webinar: a PDF copy of this presentation, a 2021 Colorado residential rebate summary sheet, an informational sheet on the importance of quality installation, a multifamily program's participation form, and a copy of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act. As a reminder, take a look at section 38-33.3-106.7, which discusses unreasonable restrictions on energy efficiency measures. And you may download these handouts by clicking on the blue links located under the Handouts tab on the GoToWebinar control panel. And if you are unfamiliar, this is what the GoToWebinar control panel looks like. The highlighted section shows you where you may access the links to today's handouts. And if you're having any trouble accessing these handouts, please contact me after the webinar for copies. Please note that the information provided during this presentation is for educational purposes only, and it is not meant to be construed as legal advice. Any legal questions you have should be directed to your attorney. And real quick, before we get into today's topics, I want to take a moment to talk to you about my office, the HOA Information and Resource Center. The HOA Center is a statutorily created office, and my position, the HOA Information Officer, is appointed by the Director of the Division of Real Estate. Per statute, the HOA Center provides information to homeowners regarding their basic rights and responsibilities under Kiowa. It gathers and analyzes and reports information through complaints and HOA registrations, and writes an annual report to the legislature. It creates resource materials, provides education and presentations such as this one, and we also maintain a website with information for the public, as well as registering HOAs. As for what our office does not do, the HOA office is not a regulatory program. We do not mediate or arbitrate. We cannot provide legal advice. We do not act as an advocate. We cannot assess fines or penalties, and we do not enforce an HOA's failure to register. Now that's from my office. Now on to today's presentation, I'm going to pass control over to Ann, and she is going to take us through her presentation. And I'm going to pass along over to you now.
Sounds good. I'm going to show my screen.
Great.
Can you see it?
Sure can.
All right, we're good to go.
Thanks
for being with us, and I look forward to talking with you, and I'm so glad you're interested in our rebates. This screen says residential rebates, but we're going to talk about some other rebates as well. So I'm going to dive right in. I think you know that Xcel Energy serves not just Colorado, but several other states. The other major one is Minnesota and some other northern states, and then we're also in New Mexico and Texas, closer to home. We have a lot of customers in both electricity and natural gas are what we provide. Very quickly, you probably know that Xcel Energy does not serve all of Colorado. This is just a snapshot of where we are. And the rest of the landscape on the electric side, I'm going to go back to that slide in just a second, but the rest of the landscape is pretty busy. Xcel Energy's is this section in here, and you see us out here and up there and here. So it's a pretty patchwork kind of landscape. So these rebates, some of them are for electric customers using our electric service, and some of them are geared to natural gas. And you can see Pueblo, for example, we serve natural gas to those customers, not Pueblo West, just saying it's that specific. And then on the electric side, back and forth, here is our electric service, and you see we serve Salida, and I cut off the bottom of it, but down to Alamosa. So we are in a lot of places. We have 1.6 million residential customers. About half of those have both electric and gas, E and G, if you will, from Xcel Energy. And then we have a bunch that are electric only service from us, and they may be served gas from another utility, or they may use propane, or they may have just electric. And then the same thing is true on the gas side. An example would be Parker, where we don't serve, we don't have electric service there, but we do provide gas, and so on. I'm sure you all know that in order for a customer to receive a rebate, that is an energy savings rebate, they have to be using that type of service from us that the rebate is for. So that's the reason why I brought it up. And I'm going to skip right on to this slide asking the question, so why does a power company offer rebates to help customers use less power? Now, right, it seems kind of counterintuitive. Well, the reason is that it's a good balance for everyone, and it's a win for everyone. So here's how it works. On a customer's bill, every customer, they fund the rebates. It's a very small amount. I think mine is $1 and change per month. And then when a customer uses the rebate offering, they've made an improvement that's going to give them energy savings, and the purpose of the rebate is to help buy down the upfront cost. So we have annual goals to meet that were set by the Public Utilities Commission. If we hit those energy savings goals, then we get to use the funds that the customers basically funded to recover the lost profit. And the win for everyone, so the customer wins, Xcel Energy wins, and we all win because our environment uses less power and creates less carbon. I'm going to use carbon, greenhouse gases, and pollution kind of interchangeably through this. When we need less power plants, it helps us keep our bills low, and it helps our environment. So just taking a snapshot, this is on for all of our territory. Since 2005, of 150 rebate programs in several of the 8 states in which we have rebate offerings, we've avoided building 21 power plants and a whole lot of carbon. Now, granted, this is from 2018, but it really matters. What we do really matters, and it matters to customers. Everybody likes saving money, and some care about saving both energy and lessening their carbon footprint, and some don't. We're all different. Moving on very quickly, the world in which I live as part of Xcel Energy, I will tell you that everything that we do is set against these litmus tests. Are we leading the clean energy transition? Are we enhancing the customer experience? And are we keeping bills low? So just talking about the bills for a moment, Xcel Energy is well below the average nationally in the prices. So these are also 2018 numbers. My apologies, I couldn't find an updated slide for this morning, but we've done really well. We're about, I think, 33% lower than the national average right now on the electric side. It particularly is important as we talk about what the rebates are today, why some have gone up, and what's likely to happen in the future. You can see that natural gas right now costs less than electricity. We don't know what the future holds, but in terms of where we want to put our resources in order to keep bills low, the renewables that we have really are on the electric side. So think wind and solar, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and how it plays into the rebates in just a moment. So we're going to talk about the residential rebates because for your organizations, the people that you're trying to serve and take information back to, it's largely on the residential side, but there are a couple of business rebate programs that are basically no cost for some of the services that you could take advantage of, and that includes a multifamily program and another one. So we'll touch on those as well. Residential cooling only rebates include evaporative coolers and central air conditioners. So centrally ducted, typically paired with a furnace and natural gas furnace. And I just need to mention for a minute, and my apologies, I wanted to mention that there are two types of meters, right? There's a residential meter, and so the residential rebates are only available to those who have a residential meter. And then there are business meters, which are probably your shared spaces, right? Common spaces. In my condo building here in Littleton, that would be the HVAC system that's serving cooling and heating in the hallways, for example. In other buildings that may include a central boiler, water heater, etc.
Hey, Ann?
Yes.
Quick question for you regarding the difference between residential and business meters. So here in Colorado, there are a few, probably more than a few, HOAs that are commercial HOAs. And they can also be mixed. I know that there are a few, especially downtown, where the HOA consists of businesses on the floor level, and then there's some residential units on top. I would assume in an ideal world, there would be separate meters for the separate units, but in a situation where they might share those meters, is it reasonable to assume that they would fall under the business side of things, the commercial side of things?
Jeffrey, that's a great question. It could go either way. It just depends on each individual building. Easiest way to tell is by the bills. Taking a look, and it clearly says so, but you could also just call Xcel Energy and ask for clarification of what meters are associated with each of the premises.
And if somebody were to reach out to Xcel to ask that question, they would just need the address for that unit?
They will also need to be on the bill.
Okay.
So, and that's one of the determiners. If it is a multifamily building where, and so above retail space, for example, then we can't give detailed information unless the property manager, for example, is on the Xcel Energy account. And certainly we see that sometimes. If they're not, then asking for aggregate information, right? I'm not asking about a specific unit. I'm asking about, can you just tell me whether there are residential meters associated with the rest of the building? That would at least get you started in the right direction. And then in this presentation, I'm going to give you the Xcel Energy residential customer service number, as well as the business rebate service center number as well. So we'll let you know who to contact for what. And if you contact one or the other, they talk to each other, they can transfer calls, etc.
Fantastic, great information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great question. Yeah. Yeah, HOAs come in all kinds of flavors, don't they? In building types. So we have evaporative coolers, which we see in Colorado, but certainly not in more humid climates. The rebates are wonderful, but we typically see those in homes that are older and don't have central cooling already. They don't have a central ducting system. So think a boiler. My guess is that because of the age of homes that are involved, you don't see a lot of those in HOA communities unless they're low income. By the way, we do have a robust low income portfolio of offerings, And if there are any low-income properties associated with an HOA, I can point you to the right place to get some really great services for that. In central air conditioners, you see the symbol down here, the plug is electricity, right? So it's an electric service rebate. And down here with this means you have to use a participating contractor. This is especially important for central air conditioners. The majority of the market, there are probably, I'm estimating, between 1,100 and 1,400 residential HVAC contractors in our territory. And that is definitely varying because of the last year and this year and the equipment shortages, but I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But contracts can be found at this link. So if you don't use a registered contractor, when you see this symbol, it means that the customer would not be able to get the rebate. And I'm going to explain why that's so important for central air conditioners. So.
And I'm going to interject real quick on that last slide. And I know you're about to talk about quality installation, so that's really important. I want to mention for any homeowner who might be listening who would like to bring this information to their board, it's very important to recognize that many boards and many community association managers will have their own preferred vendors that they work with.
Yes.
The rules are going to change. Every HOA is going to have their own paradigm and their own standards. So just keep in mind, if you're a homeowner taking this information to your board, make sure that they have all of the information that Ann provides, including the handout that's attached regarding quality installation, because again, a lot of these rebates, as Ann is mentioning, are only going to apply if you have that participating contractor install the installation. So make sure you're bringing all of the information. Just wanted to get that out there.
Right, there it is. Jeffrey, I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is so important. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to show you, again, this is the link to find out who is and isn't registered. And if you are working with a contractor, that my ask of you is to contact them and have them call me or email me, and I'll tell them how to get connected and get signed up. I will say that there's some cost associated with it, and as you're going to see in the next slide, it's not just an upfront cost to get a certification. It's not huge. It's like a $300 cost, but it's time, right, as well as that money. But additionally, it takes them longer to install because they're not just slapping in a system and moving on. They're going to need to check. They're going to need to seal the ducts that they can see. They have to size it properly. That includes a manual J load calculation. That's typically the salesperson who is coming out to estimate should be doing that at the time they're doing the estimation. They need to have someone who understands how to look at the manufacturer information for the refrigerant and match it to what's actually in the field. So they can't just, we tend to see things that are overcharged, and that's a terrible energy waster, and improper airflow. Now, this information sheet is attached. I highly recommend reading it because it explains this way better than I just did. But it's sort of the equivalent of, imagine buying a car that promises, 40 miles per gallon, and you only get 2/3 of that in real life. And when you've made an investment in a new heating and cooling system, you should be able to expect more than that. And this energy savings component is really important. So here's how to choose the residential contractor again. Right now you can see, I did this snapshot a few days ago, there are 118 contractors currently in good standing with us to offer the rebates. So it's definitely worthwhile. And we put the contractors who do the most rebates in this area at the top of the list, but you can do a sort by the city as well as by the business name, and that'll help you find your contractor more
And
easily.
another quick interjection. So you may not know this off the top of your head, so I would encourage people like you said to go to this website and check it out. But do you happen to know how widespread across the state these contractors are?
The majority are in the Front Range of Colorado. We don't have many up in the high country, so Summit County, for example. We do have several on the western side, so Grand Junction, Glenwood Springs, etc.
Okay,
Rifle. Yeah,
good to know.
so somewhat, but certainly it's more prevalent here in the Front Range.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So going back to the rebates, now I'm going to really call out heat pumps. So heat pumps can both cool and heat, and they're part of the clean energy future. This is not new technology, but the importance of this technology is greatly increased. So when I talked about the AC rebates, those were $200 or $500. And when we talk about an air source heat pump, which is essentially an air conditioner that has a few more parts, and one of them is a valve, it's a reversal valve that changes the cycle from removing heat in cooling season. The way an air conditioner works, I really won't get too techie, I promise, although I really love it, is that it removes heat from the inside of the house or the condo, right? And it sloughs it outside, and it does that as a continuous cycle. Now, in an air source heat pump, the way that it heats is it is removing heat from the outside, even though the weather is cooler, and then it amplifies that heat and delivers it inside. Same equipment. So that means that you could both heat and cool. The difference between this level, an air source heat pump, and a cold climate heat pump is that as the temperature cools, then some systems are able to keep up a certain level of efficiency, saving energy at the same time that the temperature drops. And that's the essence of a cold climate heat pump is it can it can heat all the way down to an outside temperature of like 5 degrees. Now, a mini split heat pump, and you see there are two flavors of that as well. This used to be a $300 rebate. This used to be a $500 rebate. So these have gone up considerably because they're part of our clean energy future. I'll explain how in just a minute. A mini split heat pump is widely used in Europe and Asia, and it's coming into much greater popularity here in the US. We're seeing about 5 times the number of mini split heat pumps than we are the air source heat pumps here in Colorado so far. So if you know the brand names of Mitsubishi or Fujitsu, those are two that have obviously come to us from international sources. There are lots of others as well. Most of the major air conditioning manufacturers also have, if not their own, they have private label of these. These are particularly good if you have areas that are hard to heat and cool. So in a single family home, if you have an upstairs, especially one that's over a garage, you could have a unique head, is what we would call it, right? It's a unit that's right in the room or area that you need to give extra cooling in the summer and extra heating without overcooling or overheating the whole home. And you could do that for several areas with one central outdoor unit as the control that it communicates with. It's pretty cool technology. Ground source heat pump, we don't see much in existing homes, but for customers who are really, really set on being as net zero energy use as possible, ground source heat pump is a great way to do that as well. It requires loops that are put down into the ground. So that's why I say we typically see it in new construction as opposed to existing homes. Now, that's probably more than you ever wanted to know about them, but they're coming. So I wanted to talk about what their place is and why you're going to see lots from Xcel Energy and others. Beneficial Electrification League of Colorado, other utilities, municipalities like Denver and Boulder are very aggressive with their goals to be carbon free. And you can see that with a base of 2005, this is Xcel Energy's vision and where we've come in terms of results. We're doing so well, and I'm going to talk about how our generation sources are changing. We're doing so well with this that we have recently made a commitment not to be 80% of the way there by 2030. We plan on being 85% of the way there. So what that means is that our generation sources are changing. And I had alluded to this earlier. You can see that coal is dropping significantly. And you see that natural gas was temporarily increased in 2019, but we're anticipating it's going to be all the way down to 15%. Because even though it's a clean source in that sector, it is not carbon free. And so we're hoping to use the renewables from look at the progress and how much we've done. I'm sure you've seen the wind farms and the solar farms that are out there. Solar is a huge part, so is wind, of a clean energy future. So here's how heat pumps really come into this. What we're trying to do is for both heating homes and hot water, domestic hot water, is in the summer season, you're going to cool with electricity. A heat pump does that more efficiently, keeping a more steady temperature. So summer, you would be cooling with the heat pump. In the shoulder seasons of the fall and the spring, it would switch automatically from cooling to heating, depending on what the needs are. And in winter, going back to the types of heat pumps, if it's a central heat pump or even a mini split that's serving the entire home, you would heat with a furnace or a heat pump with a furnace backup. It could be a boiler backup too, so that depending on the type of heat pump that you buy, if you don't want to spend high-end dollars on the cold climate heat pump, then especially for the lower level of efficiency that's still better than an air conditioner, then it's going to have a backup so that your cost is reasonable throughout the year. In an analysis that we had done by a third party this year for training contractors, if this is set up right, it's going to have lots of benefits, and the cost spread over a year is the same or less than you would be paying and with just the traditional air conditioner and furnace. So the thing about, when customers are making decisions about HVAC equipment, they're going to live with that decision for like 20 years. It's a long time. And we know, going back to that clean energy future and the kind of pressure that we're seeing on a national and state and municipality basis, tells us that if someone's making a decision today with traditional equipment, I have a hard time believing that they are setting themselves up to be happy about that decision years from now. What a heat pump does is protect them from unexpected bills in the future. We don't know what that holds, but I do believe that it's a really wise decision to go with a heat pump instead of an air conditioner.
Hey, Ann, real quick.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind that our topography here in Colorado is so diverse, does Xcel see a more stronger concentration of certain equipment in certain areas of the state than others? What comes to mind is, here in Denver area, it gets pretty darn hot during the summer, whereas up in the mountains or maybe in other regions of the state, it doesn't necessarily get as warm. Is there any correlation between the use of air conditioning and heat pumps or other equipment?
Absolutely. Yeah, the different climates. We certainly have traditionally seen more air conditioning in the lower elevations,
Hmm.
but I've been talking with a utility colleague in the Aspen area on a regular basis, and she says that the need for cooling is increasing as our overall climate warms
Mm.
in her area, and I've heard that for Summit County as well, that that is becoming a more emerging need.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we're back to that heat pump slide simply because I just wanted to give you one more chance to look at it. And now you know that an air source heat pump is a lot like an air conditioner, but it can be reversed and be used for heating as well. And a cold climate is a higher end, more capable of being efficient down to a lower temperature heat pump. Mini splits can have multiple heads on one system for different parts of the house and their unique needs, and they can be individually thermostatically controlled, and the ground source heat pump. So moving on, we do have a natural gas furnace. It needs to be high efficiency, which is the 95% annualized fuel utilization. I can't remember what the E stands for. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Anyway, it's a high-end natural gas furnace, and it's a $300 rebate. And then water heaters. This is a traditional tank water heater. We have those rebates, tankless. The electric heat pump water heater I had alluded to before, and these do require a participating contractor. So there's that same link, xcelenergy.com/co-traits, gets you to that as well. I want to call out the cost of energy at the hottest, and today our peak, our highest peak for electric use. For those of you who remember, blackouts or brownouts in some parts of the country, most recently, I think in California, that is something that is not acceptable to us and has not been an issue for a long time because we have to overbuild to make sure that on the peak, the hottest days, that we're not going to have that issue. So in those peak times, on those select hottest days, when customers enroll in this kind of demand management program, there's one for thermostats as well, then it gives them an upfront credit and then gives them a credit each year for us to be able to send them a message saying, can we lower your energy use a little bit for this period of time? Typically only impacts on the AC side like 3 degrees during a 4-hour period. But just that note of what this means. So the smart thermostat offerings that we have, it's a $50. We also have we have in a store on our website. This is the actual link. You could find it on our main website too. But we have discounts on qualifying thermostats, and then it's up to each customer if they want to enroll those qualifying units for a bill credit up front and then bill credit each year. And it's that same idea. But there are some great deals on smart thermostats on our website. And again, that's the link to our store. Insulation and air sealing for single family homes, or if it's a townhome that has its own unique attic space, it also qualifies for them. It's 30% of the cost of improvements up to the rebate maximum. So it's again, you need to use a required contractor. In some of our areas that have only electric service from us, if they are using central air conditioning, the rebates are much lower, but at least they can get something for that. And we have, I'm a big fan. I've had every home that I've lived in, except for this one because it's newer. I've done a home energy audit. I've had one done, and it's great. It costs about $400, and I highly recommend the highest level because they have great tools. So they do a blower door, which tells you where the air is escaping that you've paid to condition inside your home, and it's getting outside, or the outside is coming in and screwing up the conditioned air. That's what a blower door does. And then the infrared is like an X-ray vision of where the air is leaking. And then that's what is most commonly used to do the insulation and air sealing improvements. Doesn't cost much. It's great information about the home. We do have other residential rebates. I mentioned the low income, but home lighting is done through retailers all over the place. You've probably seen some of the screaming deals. I've got like 10 LED bulbs for $2 at Costco. Home Energy Squad, they come out and do work in your home for a low fee, and they do some improvements while they're there. It's cool. Refrigerator recycling, those old refrigerators that are like, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to get rid of the old garage one, right? And get a new one for inside, move the old inside to the outside. This is a great way to handle that. We come take it away and give you money for it. And we have school kits and some others. Now, let me talk briefly about for the business metered customers, or a combination. There's a multifamily program that starts with an application, and I put the link down here. It is not a difficult form. It's one page. It's asking some basic information. You send that in, and here's where you would go for help. Clear Result is a third-party vendor party that we use to manage this program. So this is our customer service number. This is the link that you could send the application to. They come out and do an assessment that's no charge. And at the same time that they're there, they'll do some direct installation work if it's appropriate, changing out, for example, old bulbs or CFLs to lighting, LED lighting. They'll provide shower heads and aerators to help reduce water loss, and which helps with hot water costs as well. And they help with the process. So if you've already started some upgrades, but you'd like just some help and some advice, I would encourage you to call or email them. You don't have to do it in this order. They would just be happy to talk with you. And the last one that I had to talk about was the Small Business Energy Solutions. Here's the contact number, and here's an email. This is great for a certain size, and so an annual peak demand of up to 400 kilowatts. If you're not sure whether you would qualify, your building would qualify for this, or your property, just call this number and ask them. And then they'll walk you through what the process is from there and what the rebates are that are available. Ready for questions?
Well, I think you've done an excellent job, Ann, of going through all of the different rebates that Xcel offers. I would encourage people to reach out to you after this webinar with any questions that they have. It looks like you might have one or two more slides.
I had them at the end and moved them to the beginning, and
Gotcha.
so I actually don't. Sorry about that.
No worries at all. I'm going to go ahead and